As athletes and coaches, we can often get lost focusing on our own path, our own goals, and our own struggles. In reality, no matter what your personality, past, or purpose, none of us can succeed on our own. Our guest today, Sam Ball, will serve as both an anchor and example of someone who lived at both sides of the success spectrum while crafting himself into the tremendous servant leader he is today. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Win, a show where we interview champions and trailblazers and ask questions to uncover and discover their championship traits for succeeding in sports, work, and life. After many years of struggling with addiction and trying to get sober with little success, Sam Ball realized in order to stay sober and grow, he had to build a community and look at the whole picture of physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional health. That's just what he did. Sam currently coaches at Warrior Strength, a nonprofit gym built around support and community. He is a Strongfirst certified kettlebell and barbell instructor, as well as a certified peer support specialist. He is also a nutrition coach, though he prefers to use his knowledge to help his peers rather than take on clients. Sam is also the program manager and recovery coach at Flourish Bakery, a nonprofit that helps people coming out of treatment or incarceration to rebuild their lives by teaching them to bake, introducing them to resources, and teaching them life skills such as finance and nutrition, but most importantly, helping them to build a community. In addition to everything we said above, Sam is also a traditional archer, which I think is awesome, a scuba diver, a chef, a dog lover, and a power lifter. He is a man of integrity and passion, and he holds space for people to be exactly where they are at and will love and support you through that process. Sam, welcome to the show.
Thanks, guys.
Sam, it's so great to have you on the show, buddy. Wow, you've done so many great things. You know, your dad and I go way back, and you know, it's great talking to you, Sam. Sam, I'm just going to get right into it. You know, you're so genuine in your struggles, and we think it's so important that everyone understands that, you know, failure can often be the orphan, but it's also the best teacher. Walk us through your struggle and what was the turning point for you?
So brief story goes back to I grew up in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. I played sports. I got hurt and I got prescribed painkillers. Football, I mean, all the partying and stuff was one thing, but when I got prescribed painkillers, that was it. It was over from there. I eventually got addicted to Oxycontin and then got incarcerated and got out, and Oxycontin was no longer around. And so then went to heroin, and it was just a constant struggle from then on.
Wow.
Treatment, jail, probation, did that whole circle a bunch of times. And there was just little to no success, and it was just turmoil and pain and shame and putting my family through all kinds of terrible things. And it's not who I was. That's one of the reasons I'm so adamant about the people we deal with now, is because the people, like, you are not the choices you make. That's not who you are. Like the things that I did, absolutely, I paid the consequences for everything I did, but that was not who I am. That was just a means to get what I needed at the time. And I think that's huge for like letting people know because everybody thinks of felons or drug addicts as these just awful people, and they're not.
Yeah. You know, this a follow up there, you know, this prescribed painkillers, this Oxycontin, you know, Sam, it's awful. I mean, in the military, you know, these veterans get out and the VA sends you all of these painkillers. You know, I threw them all away. I wasn't even going to start. And because it's just a bad road. Now, you know, people are starting to see the effects of that in some places. But Sam, you know, you were down, you were out, you said you did that whole circle of incarceration, you know, failure, everything else. And was there a pivotal moment? Was there a time that just said, you're like, that's it?
Yeah, this last time I got sober, I was at the guy's house I was doing drugs with, and his son came upstairs. He was 18, and he was like, I'm just waiting to come down into the garage and see my dad and you dead in the garage. And then I just started thinking about my family, and I was just like, man, I can't do this anymore. And yeah, and I got into treatment in Utah that next day.
Wow. Good for you. What an amazing step you had to take, right? Just a brave step to just leave that. You saw the awakening and you stayed on it. Amazing.
Yeah, what I find amazing, Sam, and again, there's kind of two sides to your story for our audience. One is that, one of the things we love to do on the show is bring on people to give all these different, aspects of where people can be, where they can get to at that entire spectrum. And I think it's so important that people have that gauge, both when, sometimes people think they're going through something tough, but maybe it's not the biggest thing in the world. And adversely, sometimes people are going through the biggest thing in the world and they don't realize, hey, I need help, right? So there's lots of different ways of looking at that. What I find amazing about our species, if you will, is our ability, and you just said this, just a snap thing happens and you change your entire life. We're all capable of that, right? It's just something has to happen, a pivotal moment, as JB said. And I think that goes into what you were saying about, hey, you're not the decisions you make. We get so lost in that, right? And we talk about present moment awareness all the time. The only thing that matters is right now. We can get so lost in our past decisions. I had a friend one time who says, you don't know what I did in the past. I said, I don't really care. You're here right now. Right? Are you a good person right now? Yeah. Well, then that's, no one's coming for you, right? Like, you know what I'm trying to say? Like, those pivotal moments are so important. And for the listeners, I'd love for you to comment on this, Sam. I just want people to believe in that again. I think that, especially kind of where the world is today, it's just like, what's the point? We can aspire to be better. And sometimes it just takes, as you said, an 18-year-old saying something strong like that to snap you out of it. But to the people listening, if they need a pivotal moment, from a mental fitness standpoint, can you comment on what I'm saying? Like, I'm talking a lot, but I'm just saying, can you comment on that from your point of view?
Yeah, it all boils down to fear. And without fear is stupidity. But it takes courage to walk through that fear, to face the fear and walk through it. And that's kind of the biggest thing that I would say is, like, it's never it's never too late to start walking through that fear.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
Love
I
it.
think, yeah. And I think
Love
that
it.
now more than ever, there's so much fear and hatred and anger in society right now that we need to be compassionate with our people and walk with them through that fear.
Totally. And another thing about the fear, and you just said this, right? It's never too late. There's always this, oh, I'll do it tomorrow or in the future. Man, we don't know how much time anyone has ever. Like, it doesn't work that way. People say, oh, I have all the time. Time's your greatest commodity. If you're alive right now, you have the time you have, right? It might be long, it might not be. So, people's perception of time and how much of it they have left is something that always boggles my mind, right? You can't live that way. You have to live for the present moment. Now, I do want to talk about just mental fitness real quick, and then we're going to dive into how you became a servant leader, because another thing that's amazing about your journey is that it sounds like you found some level peace in helping others with the same struggles, which I think is something people don't look at enough. That's a tease for a few minutes from now, but I want to talk about just mental fitness real quick, because we all know about physical fitness, and you're involved in that world, and everybody has this great understanding of physical fitness, right? Okay, it's lifting weights or it's doing physical activity to get stronger, but we don't have a good gauge on mental fitness. In fact, there's a stigma surrounding it for really an unknown reason at this point. How do you define mental fitness? How do you work on your mental fitness? Someone who's seen ups and downs like you, how do you approach that side of this?
So the first thing that came to mind is one thing I really like to do is ice baths.
Yeah.
Just because nothing puts you in that fight or flight response quicker. And
Right.
the amount of gratification and mental toughness you can get from telling your body no, like, I am not going to die, I'm totally fine in this thing, it's actually good for me. Being able to fight that fight or flight response is, I mean, I can't even explain how much benefit that has given me. Yeah.
It's a great answer. And it's a good point. Another quote I remember, I was a hockey player. It's an amazing moment when you realize you get punched in the face and your face isn't made of glass.
Yeah.
Right. You're tougher than you think you are. I'm talking generally here, and JB, actually, you tell that story a lot about You know, being in the military, it's just being able to push yourself beyond what you think you can do, or, you know, okay, do 100 push-ups, right? I can't do that. Do it. And then they do it, right? Like they might take an hour and a half, but they do it. The human perseverance in the face of any adversity, we don't practice that enough as people. The human spirit, what people, we had a lady on this show, Sam, who had a bypass surgery, is walking around with no beating heart in her chest. She had a machine beating her blood through her body. And she went back, like, and we're sitting here, JB and I are sitting here on that episode, like, this is incredible. Like, right. But when I look at you, man, I feel the same way. Like, here's a guy who was on the brink, found his way back, and then decided to serve others. And this is a cool thing I want to go into here, because
Lee, I just want to interrupt
please,
1 second.
JB, go ahead.
And you know, the decade we've been doing this, we ask people, how do you practice mental fitness? I love it. I never heard, I do an ice bath every day.
Yeah.
That's not, because that's exactly it. I'm like, it's half crazy and half genius. It really is, Sam. Like, that's great. Everybody's like, meditation, focus, prayer, something. I get in the ice bath.
I feel the pain.
I love it.
Go
ahead, Lee.
No, you know, JB, you bring up a good point too, is that separation of consciousness and your body, and that your body will tell you to stop, but you have something more that can push you to a further extreme. And I don't think a lot of people are in touch with that. Sam, you're clearly in touch with that. Everyone on this call has taken an ice bath at some point. It is, as you said, it's exactly as you described, right? No, you're gonna be fine. Just sit here. The soreness will be gone tomorrow.
Yeah, but in the military, we took them because we didn't want to. You know,
right.
It was to watch you suffer.
Right. But that's what the military does. But you need to be comfortable with the uncomfortable to do what you do, JB. That's the whole point there. So, Sam, I do want to turn now to this servant leadership side of your life, because I think one of the things that amazes me is people that go through hell, which you did, or people that get to the depths of despair, often find their serenity by helping others out of that position. Right. And that's what you're choosing to do with your life now, whether it's through the fitness, whether it's through baking. You've kind of dedicated your life now to servant leadership. Why did you choose to do that? Right? Like, what was the thought process? Maybe there was another pivotal moment there of like, that's what I need to do. And then how do you go about doing it?
Why I decided to do that. So one of the reasons I used heroin for as long as I did is I'm an extremely emotional dude. And growing up in North Idaho, being a man, that's not okay. You know what I mean? It's not okay to be an emotional guy. And so when I got sober and I realized like that I have a lot of compassion towards people and I care a lot about people. And I have a unique experience, a life experience where it can directly affect people that have gone through that experience and show them that it is possible. And just, it takes a tribe, it takes a community. Doing this shit by yourself it's not easy and it's not fun, and it's really no point to do it by yourself because you don't have to, you know.
But it's not possible either, right? Let me ask you that question again. I've never been in that situation. Is it even possible to get out of that situation on your own?
No, I tried a lot because I was like, I don't trust people, I don't like people, I don't want to be around people. But the reality of it is I actually, those are all just my ego speaking. Is just I really do love people and I need people.
Well, and let me tap on that. Let me pull the thread on that, because when we think about that thought process, right, it's actually not just limited to your situation. There's people like that are trying to just learn sports. Like, I don't need help. I can do it on my own, so forth and so on. So what was the changing moment where you were able to break through that ideology, to break through the ego, and then take that first step? That first step has to be the hardest, because your whole internal dialogue is saying, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. Right. But something else is saying, do it. Right. Yeah. That's the pivotal moment I want to focus on. Right. How did you break through? Maybe how long did your brain tell you not to do it? Or was it just a clear, nope, just changing it today?
It was they always talk about hitting your bottom, you know what I mean? And I didn't have an ego left. Do you know what I mean? There was nothing there. I was completely beaten down, and I mean, I didn't have anything to be proud of. I didn't have anything to live for, really, except my family. And that was the point where it was like, I had to get to a point where there was nothing left for me to try to fight. I was just like, all right, I'm willing to try this, because what I'm doing isn't working, and I can't just pretend that, oh, I'm a big tough guy, I don't need to do this that way. It's just, my way wasn't working.
Right.
Well, and Sam, look, you took this, you turned it around, right? I mean, that story of, you're doing drugs and the kid coming up and saying like, let's see which one of you are dead first. And, that switch went on for you. And I think it's so important that you talked about, and Lee and I talk about this all the time, about being vulnerable. There you are, an athlete, a man, growing up in the Northwest, you can't cry, can't, you got to do it all on your own. You're like, no, I can't do it. I had no ego left. And look at yourself. You drug yourself in to to a rehab facility. You got clean, and now you're helping others. And let's just talk about that. Talk about, like, I see you now, you're physically fit. I mean, there's some great photos of you. I know Caitlin's gonna, use when she promotes this. And, you're a kettlebell expert, you're a machine, you're a big dude. I mean, you're cut, and now you're helping others. And you've taken this and you're like, hey, listen, you need some help? Come with me. I'm gonna help you. And Lee used a term several times, servant leader. That's awesome. Talk us through that, this fitness piece, and how it just kind of came together for you.
So when I got into rehab, they took us to this gym that was a nonprofit, recovery-based gym. And I met who's now my best friend and mentor, Frank Young, who runs Warrior Strength. And I realized that I really liked lifting weights. I really liked how it made me feel, the endorphins and that stuff. And I realized that I needed to start fueling my body to fuel my brain, because I can only sit through so much therapy. I can't, my brain can only soak up so much of that stuff. And then you get out and you're drinking Monster Energy drinks, smoking cigarettes, eating at Denny's, all this shit that's just putting this garbage into my body. And I realized that, okay, if I'm going to do this, I need to treat my whole body like that. It's the analogy I use. It's like having a classic car and not changing the oil. It's going to look really good on the outside, but it's going to die on the inside. And so then that's when I really dove into the nutrition and the fitness side of things, of just seeing what my body was capable of, and taking all those different, and then helping the people when they come in, because gyms are intimidating, especially like the box gyms, like the 24-hour fitness or the Vosses and stuff like that. They're intimidating because you got a whole bunch of people that are all different sizes, and you have no idea what you're doing necessarily. Most of them don't, at least. And so when they come into this gym, a lot of them have never seen the inside of a gym before. And so our job is to make them feel comfortable where they're at, and to change the movements, like, because a lot of them can't even sit into a body weight squat, and so getting them used to that, while not making them feel less than, or like they're not capable of it. And eventually when they stick around long enough, they see the progress and they start getting stronger. And then that right there is a huge self-confidence booster. And self-confidence is key. When I started getting self-confidence back, is like, that's a big game changer for my life. And it's the same as in Flourish Bakery, where we bring people out of the from prison or from rehab. And when you get out of jail, you get out of rehab, you're sent out from 100% structure to no structure whatsoever. And then here's your court fines, here's your probation, you have to UA 3 times a week, you have to do all these classes. Oh, and you need to work a full-time job, and you need to find some time in there to figure out how to stay sober. And so that's where we come in.
Doesn't sound much different than the military in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it's almost an impossible task that they set people on, right? Like, it's just, I mean, this is a realization for me too. Obviously, I don't know a lot about that other side. And Sam, you just saying what I love what you said, and I wrote it down, is you said, you had to figure out, you had to treat your entire body. You had to feel your body to feel your brain.
That's awesome.
I think that's so important. And if people are listening today, like, that's exactly it. Boy, you had to get yourself out of that cycle. And you're like, okay, it's more than just, okay, sitting through counseling. You had to do something. I love your analogy. You're sucking, what are you saying? Smoking cigarettes, drinking Monster and eating at Denny's, right? You're like, enough of that. But I think that's so important, right? When you're trying to get yourself, you're trying to get yourself on the winning edge there. Lee and I talk about it all the time. When we talk about the athletes, it's just not that physical part. It's a physical, it's emotional, it's educational, it's spiritual, it's, diet, nutrition. You have to put it all together. And I think that's so important there. Go ahead, Lee. I'll let you caveat.
Well, I'm thinking about, JB, is the team building philosophy that we talk about, at least mine, and it applies to like every team environment. And I always apply it to sports, but Sam, I'm thinking about your situation coming out of being incarcerated, right? And the three things are this: to succeed in any environment or championship type environment, you have to have tactics, right? You have to have some game plan, right? You have to have some level of talent. All right. And that talent can be different. Like I said, if it's going into baking or the gym, anything, you have to have some perception for what you're doing. And then the last one's a team bond. And what it sounds like to me is that whether it's, and like, actually I can do this from the military to coming out of jail. It doesn't sound like we do enough to help people find team bonds and find that community. With the military, I always say, you're leaving the greatest team environment on the planet. And then there is not going to be a team you find that's as good as that. So it's the exact opposite of what you're talking about, in the sense of they're super team oriented, they can't find a team. And in your situation, it's maybe you're not team oriented, but you have the structure and you don't even know where to look for a team. And most likely with both instances, the military and jail, the general public doesn't even know how to incorporate you into a team because they have their preconceived notions over, oh, he was an addict, he said you can't trust this guy.
Yeah.
Or this guy was in the military, I don't want a military. And in reality, those two people are yearning to be part of a team. They're probably going to be your hardest worker if you think about it. You know what I mean? So let's just dive into the team aspect of this and the community aspect of it, because if there's anything I preach, if there's like my whole thing is I just want people to believe in teamwork again. We've completely lost the ability to do that globally. It's not even just an American problem, right? There is no instance in history where someone succeeds on their own. Doesn't happen. From Genghis Khan to both of us today, it just doesn't happen. So why don't you just preach a little bit about team, community, maybe tell a story of what you've seen of either yourself or someone who's joined a community and flourished. Because I think those are really important stories to tell. Anyone, top military people out of jail can be incorporated in a group, if they have the moral standing to do so.
I could spend this whole podcast talking about the military and the veterans, because I see, veterans in addiction is huge, because they're, as you said, they're sent from 100% structure to nothing. They're
Right.
trained how to do they're trained how to do these skills that really don't transfer over necessarily into the regular world, but they're not helped at all to figure out how to live in the regular world. And so they end up in where we're at, and I see them all the time. We've had a couple veterans come through Flourish, and it has been, absolute hell trying to get them comfortable and trust, because they don't trust, because they have no reason to trust.
Right.
And so trying to get them into a community of where because they do really well in communities of other veterans, because they have that same playing field. They know they can trust, like they've been through the same stuff. And so, veterans is that I think what America does with their military is they should be ashamed of themselves.
Oh, afterwards, for sure. Yeah. You throw drugs at them and say, be on your way.
Yeah.
And the truth is this, I interview a lot of military veterans, and JB, obviously you're the expert on this, but the greatest asset a veteran has after serving is not any of the jobs they did. It's the fact that they know how to be part of an effective, high-performing team. And the problem is in society, we have such a lack of leadership and a lack of teams that is almost wasted at times. And sometimes, like you said, they get addicted to other things. Now, I don't want to just keep it focused on the military. You did say something is they don't trust. So Sam, how do you build the trust? Like, what's the process for that?
So Flourish and Warrior Strength, community is everything. And how you build community is you walk with them. You don't tell them how to do something. There's nothing more irritating than when you're going through something and somebody's like, oh, well, here's all the solutions for it. It's like, dude, I'm not asking for a solution. I'm asking for you to walk with me through this. And that's what we do. We walk with them. We're not going to do it for you, but we're going to walk with you, and we're going to give you the resources that you can do for yourself. Because first of all, we don't have the time to do it for everybody. Second of all, you don't get that gratification. You don't get to stand with your shoulders back and be like, I did that, if we did it for you.
I love that. And I'll tell you right now, I'll make myself vulnerable from an athletic point of view. Like, coaches that are listening to this show, that was my biggest mistake as a young coach. I was giving everybody fish and not teaching anybody how to fish. And, some people were really thankful for the fish, but it always ended in resentment and, hey, back off and let me do it on my own. And I had to learn how to do that. Sam, I'm the type of person, I love to help people, right? I want to help people, but it took me a long time to get to the realization of people, have to want your help. That's a big part of it. If they don't want your help, you're not going to help. It doesn't matter what you do. Right. And that there is some ego there too. Like, my attitude when I was younger was like, no, but I want to help you. And it's not about my want to help. It's about this person needs to want the help. And then, as you said, and I think this is huge for sports and coaches, walk with them. This is where college coaches make major mistakes in pro sports. This is where Urban Meyer made a mistake, is I am a god among men. You're NFL players. They treat his staff and his players like crap, right? You look at a guy like Nick Saban. I mean, I don't know if you saw that press conference he did after they lost the national championship. His two players were devastated, completely devastated. They're about to leave. And he said, hey, sit down for a minute. I want everybody here to know that these two guys should not be defined by one game in their career. They're great young men. They're leaders. And it was a privilege for me to work with them. That's someone walking with their players who actually kind of is a god in sports, right? But he's humble enough to know that he can't approach his players that way, right? So I just think for coaches listening, and you are a coach, Sam, right? And JB, again, you have thoughts on this too, Sam. So important to understand that balance of walking with your athletes, right? Yes, there is a little bit of a hierarchy in terms of you are the coach, you have the decision to make, you make the tactics, but this kid's got to play the game. You're not playing the game, right? Last quote, and then I'll shut up. I'll use football as an example again. We all saw this games last weekend. My favorite moment of these games, it's not because of the play, was Patrick Mahomes and Kelsey on that last drive in the fourth quarter, where Kelsey says to Mahomes, hey, I'm just going to run. I'm just going to get open and pass me the ball, right? Little backyard football. Everyone knows the story. They got it at field goal range, tied the game, won the game. You know what I love the most about that story is that Andy Reid, the coach of Kansas City, didn't ruin anything by trying to overcoach the situation. He trusted his players. He trusted his quarterback to make the right play, and they did it. He didn't come in with some special play and ruin the game for his team. He let his players play the game. That's a coach who walks with his players, right? I can give you 100 examples of coaches who have screwed their team in the last minute of play by calling for something to happen that didn't need to happen, right? So again, I'm monologuing again. I get excited with this stuff, but I love that you said that because I had to learn that. Walk with your athletes. JB, I am sure in your level of the military where there's literally structured officers, you still had to make sure they understood that you were walking with them. You were their leader, but you were one of them, right?
Well, I think it's important, people, you'll never lift that person's talent by continuing to show structure for them. One thing Sam said was, we're going to help you. We're not going to do it for you.
Right.
That's what I love, Sam.
Right.
You're like, we're going to show you on that way. And I just want to, Sam, when you talk about being a quiet professional, you are such a quiet professional. I love that. And I know that people that come see you every day are some of them start at they have nowhere else to go but up, but their confidence, you said it, the self-confidence, I wrote it down. The self-confidence is gone, right? So now you have to make them a part of something. And you have to bring them along the way. Like, they're a beaten dog, right? And you have to gain that little by little trust. And you're doing it every single day for people. Sam, is that the inspiration for you? Was that what drives you?
Absolutely. Well, seeing them when they make it to the feeling comfortable and they break down that shield, because a lot of, especially the men we get out of prison, they have that defensive, because they've had to protect themselves for so long, and they've got
been
this
in prison, right?
Yeah. And so to get them, I'm a sucker for people crying. I love it when people cry, because I know how good they're going to feel after and how healing it is. And like to get, a lot of our interns are in their 40s and 50s, and to get a grown man that spent a good portion of his life in prison to cry, or to feel safe, to be vulnerable around you there. I mean, there's not a whole lot better feeling than that, to feel that you are facilitating a place that is safe enough for somebody to feel that vulnerable.
I love it.
Coaches,
Sam,
listen up to that, coaches.
yeah, that's and this, this whole thing, this whole stigma, right? We're trying to get out this cowboy up, toughen up. You got to be this, and yeah, I mean, obviously, you're in incarceration. Yeah, you got to be like 24/7. You got to be like trying to be the baddest dude there, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
And then you're coming out, you're like, hey, I got to find my way. And you're right. There's probably a lot of people that aren't giving you a chance, right? Like, oh, he's an ex-con. Why hire him? Psh, forget it. Can't pass a background check, whatever. And, somebody lost their way, but you said it doesn't define you, and you can start again. And I think that's so healing. So Sam, just share with us, your thoughts and your advice at somebody's listening right now to this podcast, and they're struggling. They're struggling mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. They're struggling right now. Give them a piece of your advice from your experience.
That be kind to yourself, because shame and guilt is a killer. There's no benefit from doing that. Like, I absolutely feel bad for the things I did, but if I sit there and dwell on the guilt and the shame of my past, I'm screwed. And so if you're stuck in it right now, if you can, reach out. If you can't, give yourself some grace and sit in it and feel those feelings. Because the longer you fight the feelings, the harder and longer it's going to stick with you.
Wow, I love it.
It's a tremendous answer, man. And the last question for me, there's no right or wrong answer. So I'm just curious. It's your journey allowed you to get to where you're at today, which arguably you're helping an infinite amount of people, because the people you help will help other people, right? So it's not a question of regret, but are you thankful in some form for your journey, that your pain, your suffering got you to where you're at today to help others?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that I'm a big believer in things happen the way they're supposed to, because that's the way they happen.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I am the person I am today. I mean, I had to go through a lot of pain. I had to put people through a lot of pain to get here. But the person I am today, and I'm proud of who I am today. And I wouldn't change that for a second. And the people that I have in my life today, the community that I've built because of the things that I've done in the past that I've had, I mean, bar none there. I mean, I have a beautiful community today.
Sam, you're an amazing human being. You're an amazing American. You're an amazing leader. You're an amazing coach, and part of this resilience, being so resilient, is helping others in your time of need. And that's what you're doing, because you're probably still going through it, but you're still continuing to help others, right? You look at people differently. You've taken the mask off. You've helped me today. I'm going to look at people differently today, Sam, because of you. Because you said, you know what, you're not defined by those actions, and you're giving people another chance to be a wholesome factor back in community and teamwork and love and caring and understanding. And you know what, Sam, if everybody listening takes a little bit of you and applies that to their life, we're making a better world.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And JB, Sam, I'll follow that up with this, is that it just goes to show you how much we have to remove ego from our lives with judgment of other people. You know, I love that Ted Lasso quote. It's not Ted Lasso, it's in Ted Lasso, but be curious, not judgmental. All right. So on a surface level, you know, we can introduce you by all those dashes next to your name, but on a base level, humans learn from other humans' experience today, right? I never look down really or up at anybody just solely based on what their rap sheet says, right? We can all learn from each other. I learned from you today, as JB said. Like, that's the beauty of it. The other thing too, I think it's amazing about you, Sam. I don't know if you realize this or not, but you know, you're living in the present moment almost all the time now. And as you said, nothing you've done before this moment really matters. It's just part of your journey to get you here. But what you're doing today is what matters. And I've met so many people that are lost in the past or lost in the future. Right? It can be both directions, and they're forgetting to live right now in this moment, which is the only freaking reality. That's it. And you don't know how much of it you're going to have left. So when I look at you, man, I see a beautiful person who understands how to live in the moment, that is living, right? And you know, you hear that, living your truth all the time, creating communities, giving others a servant leader. I love that. And I love that you were on the show today. I want you to know that.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, Sam, tell the audience one more time the two organizations and where you're at and where they can go for help.
Warrior Strength, you can go on warriorstrengthgym.com. And then Flourish Bakery, it's in Utah. We're both located in Salt Lake City, Utah. Flourish Bakery's website is flourishslc.org. Either of those places, anybody's welcome. The bakery, you can order goodies online. All of that goes into helping us be able to pay more interns. All our interns that are coming out of jail and rehab are paid internships. So I mean, it's we're doing cool things over here, and we're just trying to break that stigma. One thing I'd like just to throw in there that we're really working on with Flourish right now is, I don't know where you guys are at and at what state you guys are in, but look at what they do for the felons, because a lot of places, like, they have this thing called the Good Landlord Act, where they give incentives to not rent to felons. And how do you expect people to change their life if they don't have a place to live? So,
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
You're exactly right. 100%.
Yeah.
100%, Sam. Yep.
So,
They're all people, man. We're all
Yeah.
people, and we're all in this together. We're all
Yeah,
part of this community
absolutely.
together, right? So,
yeah.
all right, Sam Ball, this is a great interview. I want to appreciate you for being here today. And again, if you're listening to this, make sure to like and subscribe and share any of these episodes that you hear. If you can give us a review wherever you listen to the podcast, that always helps as well. But that is going to do it for this edition of Win Championship Trades for Life. For Sam Ball and JB Spizo, I'm Lee Elias. We'll see you in the next episode. Have a great day, everybody.